that's grown, cultivated under electric light, for example, instead of daylight. And chemical fertilizers are used while doing so. Good old solid dung has almost disappeared. People don't even keep barrels outside their houses attached to rainwater, or build a compost heap at the end of their garden. So, therefore, chemical fertilizers are what is produced in conditions which are unnatural. So, of course, this food has no life force at all. Imagine the difference between fruit grown under natural conditions and fruit grown under forced conditions. It's the time, isn't it? And the elements that give fruit or vegetables their life. If they're forced, they won't have it. So we eat this food all part because of the three poisons that work in people. And it makes us physically weak. But no doubt, man has the wisdom to produce enough food for everybody, which is good for one. We have the wisdom to do it, but we're blinded by the poisons of ignorance and greed. I definitely feel. And then Nichiren Buddhism goes on.
With the exception of the five highest heavens in the world of form, all the regions of the worlds of form and desire will become deprived of the seven flavors and the three essences that nourish life in human society, until nothing remains any more. All the good discourses that lead men to emancipation will, at this time, disappear.
Will become deprived of seven flavors. When I read that, I thought, everything is sort of plastic, isn't it? I mean, plastic in quotes. So much to say in a lot of ways these days. Plastic food, plastic housing, plastic hotels, plastic airports, plastic everything. When I say plastic, I mean something insipid, the same, lacking variety, lacking creativity. Of course, there's still wonderful creativity going on, but in the general run of things, this is the sort of world we have to live in. Life is the same in so many ways wherever you go throughout the world. And in this way, life has lost some of its spice, hasn't it? And this, of course, is again due to these three poisons of work. Life is beginning to lack inspiration. And certainly if you get into the underdeveloped countries where food is short, starvation may be rife, there is no inspiration at all. And when I read this, I thought, just imagine my life without our goal for personhood, without the challenges of the human revolution. I just can't imagine what my life would be like. I'd be a stupid, mouldering, irritable old fool. It's true, isn't it? Don't we think? It really is true. One can't even visualize. Incredible how fortunate we are. I really feel that we have inspiration, challenges all the time. Every single day, if not every single hour. But I'm sure, anyway, going back to the social life, in the end, as more people gain wisdom and life force and want to develop their creativity again, this will change. That I've no doubt about. As we shut the book with more and more people, one will see this creativity at work. The return of people who wish to produce beautiful goods, satisfying goods, goods that are good for people, goods that inspire. So definitely it'll come back. Because people will demand it in the end. They won't be satisfied with what we have discovered today. And also, in this bit, Nichiren Buddhism says all the good discourses that lead men to emancipation will at this time disappear. It's almost uncanny, isn't it? The way good conversation or family-created entertainment have gone. Because of the telly, because of these mechanical means of feeding ourselves with some form of entertainment. So this has all disappeared. But it hasn't disappeared for good. I know it'll come back, because people will find the middle way, won't they? There's nothing wrong with television, but it should be used in a sensible way. People will find that middle way, and I'm sure your families are finding that middle way because you're chanting to the gods. So this will spread through your example. That's the point, isn't it? Through your example of the way to run a family, following the great middle way, not going to these awful extremes, you'll have a family which is added, creative, and valued. Other people will see it, say that's what I'd like my business. Definitely, this will have a great effect. More we shall book. Okay?
All the mountains will be swept by fire, the heavenly dragons will no longer send down rain. Crops will all wither and die. All living creatures will perish, and even the grass will cease to grow anymore.
Well, we know it's grown. We've had enough examples this year and last year in Ethiopia and Africa of half of the world dies, literally dies in front of our eyes. Even in Europe, in southern Europe, there have been terrible fires again this year, just as there were a few years ago when Treps was nearly destroyed by fire. That year, 11,000 hectares in that one small area were destroyed by fire. And then we go on.
Dust will rain down until all is darkness, and the sun and the moon no longer shed their light.
Again, you remember back to the volcano eruption in Washington State in the USA, when the dust from that volcano traveled halfway around the world. We know also, of course, of the radiation that results from nuclear tests, worse still from the atomic bombs that were dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Then,
people will think no more of their fathers and mothers than does the roe deer.
Interesting, isn't it? Decline in the family. Generation gap, which has grown so considerably since World War II. Failure to look after old people properly. And also a failure, I'm sorry to say, to look after young people properly as well, as a result of broken marriages and child brutality, even incest seems to be getting worse. The chain of cause and effect. Nietzsche once said, divorce is a disease. Of course, it is a disease. It passes from one generation to the next. So we have to change it. How do we change it? By example. Listen. This is the way. We consider deeply before we commit ourselves in marriage. We study our comfort. We reflect through our Buddhist practice. In this way, we can make marriages which are right, good, which can last. That is no doubt. Again, all these things will change. This is the point. This isn't a message of gloom and doom. Everything will change. And every person will be shakabuku is one more step, isn't it, towards bringing about that thing. That's the point. Don John?
The wicked rulers and monks who perform these 10 kinds of evil behavior will destroy the true law of the Buddha and make it impossible for sentient beings to be born in the human and heavenly states of existence.
So some people are shocked. Some of our members, I mean, especially new members or night group, sometimes shocked. From the fault of the directness of Nichiren Daishonin's condemnation of the other Buddhist sects. But really, when you really read the Risho Anpokoro, and you really look around the state of the world today, wasn't he right to be so tough and strong? He saw the world beginning to destroy itself. The very first steps, weren't they, in 13th century Japan? And his understanding of cause and effect, he knew in the end this would come in worldwide force. Of course it was possible. He couldn't bear to see these priests and monks teaching these teachings which were destroying the life force of the people in sects like Menwood. Of course he was stubborn. Of course, therefore, he made many enemies. So this, of course, was a Buddhist country. We don't live in a Buddhist country. But we do see people destroying life, destroying the law in that sense, and slandering, hurting, harming life, which is slander in a general sense. This we see going on all around us. We talked a lot about it tonight. So therefore, we no need to denounce the other Buddhist sect. It was necessary and still is necessary in Buddhist country. But we have to shut a book, don't we? We have to open people's eyes. We have to pull them out of their armchairs and their little kingdoms, in the backyard, which they don't want to look over, see what goes on outside. And this is what Shapabuku is all about. To open people's eyes and restore respect for the dignity of life. This is really what it all comes down to. Now, likewise, it's no good saying, giving commandments, is it? Thou shalt not this, thou shalt not that. People don't obey commandments. That's the amazing thing about this Buddhism life. Never will people obey commandments, because always in every human being there is a resistance to being commanded. But through this practice, this awareness of ourselves and what goes on around us becomes so strong that we desire to change. And so many fanatics these days saying, abolish this and ban that, and don't do this and don't do that, anti this campaign, anti that campaign. But they don't work. And also, sometimes they're very unpleasant anyway, aren't they? And people even using violence. When, in fact, what they're preaching is peace, or harmony, or dignity of life. So this is where this practice is so interesting. Opening people's eyes, bringing them to actually change themselves. The time is going on, and I'm not going to go in any detail into the Nindo Sutra or the Yakushi Sutra, which are the sutras covered. And there's quite a bit of repetition here, because remember, Nichiren Daishonin was piling proof on top of it, on top of one another, in order to convince this method. And I think we'd better just go on to the very last paragraph, page 13, the last paragraph of this particular question.
The passages I have quoted from these 4 sutras are perfectly clear. What person in 10,000 could possibly doubt their meaning? And yet, the blind and the deluded trust to heretical doctrines and fail to recognize the correct teaching. Therefore, throughout the empire these days, people are inclined to turn away from the Buddhas and the sutras and no longer endeavor to protect them. In turn, the benevolent deities and sages abandon the nation and leave their accustomed places. As a result, fiends and followers of heretical doctrines create disaster and inflict calamity upon the populace.
So John read that very well, I think in just the right way, because Nichiren Daishonin is being so patient in explaining this. And this, in a way, is the coup de grace of this particular answer 2, because he's once more stated direct that the government of Japan has been going the wrong way. He's opening the eyes of Hojo Tokiori for that particular point. And not only Hojo Tokiori, but also the eyes of the people of the whole world. So I'd like to end just by reading. This is, by the way, volume 2 of Buddhism in Action, which has just been published. So I brought this back from Japan, but the shop will be having them in due course. But in one of Senjo's guidances here, he says this: there is a passage in the Gosha called Questions and Answers on Embracing the Lotus Sutra that states, when we view the world carefully, we see that while all people recognize the supremacy of the teaching, they have a hatred for the person who embraced it. This Gosha passage concludes with the statement, if a person embraces the supreme teaching, that person will be the most valuable. This means that a person's value depends on the teaching which he embraces. We will naturally be criticized and slandered. According to the Gosha, this proves that we are practicing true Buddhism in the correct manner. It is quite natural that one who blindly slanders true Buddhism is unable to understand its teachings. It is we who should understand it thoroughly and have absolute confidence in its validity. Never be defeated by those who, without any knowledge of faith in true Buddhism or faith in true Buddhism, express arbitrary and emotional opinions. We are in the position of sharing Buddhism with people who know little about it. There are many people who can learn from us. It would be unreasonable for us, on the contrary, to be swayed by their words as slanderers. Faith means conviction in teaching the law to others. If we backslide under the attack of those who should be learning from us, we are no longer people of faith. So, of course, this message, the Rishan, is so strong and gets stronger as the pages go on. And of course, there will be times when we're bound to be slandered and criticized. Inevitably. But never must we be set back by it. We have to take that in our stride. Never mind. One day that person will understand. Or one day that person will actually benefit. So the spirit of the Rishabhasana is, I think, summed up in those words, think. No matter what criticism, no matter what mind may sometimes be thrown at us, whether as individuals or as members of NSCK, we have in our hands the only way to save this world. Therefore, no matter what the criticism, we must never give up trying to teach us. Don't you agree? Thanks very much indeed.